Hello everybody, today we have a Chinese marvel of technology. This is Zeekr 001, so it has an index, and with this video I finished the story with Chinese cars. To be honest, I'm probably a little bit tired of them, but it just so happens that in the periodicity, probably about a couple of times a month they come across, but they mostly come across like this, or a couple of other brands that I showed you. But today's is remarkable, first of all for the color, in a good configuration, as I understand, again, and with an interesting interior. So, let's get on with it. I'm going to show you just what I've been showing you, the brake discs, the braking system. I understand it's not local, it's not Chinese. It's, I think, the same company that makes the brakes for the Nissan GTR. Like all cars like this, it's got a bunch of surround view cameras. Basically, I understand that the main task of the car's creator was to make people feel comfortable. But as they say, I like everything, but I don't like the price. Because the price tag of this car is about a tenner, and in order not to write haters specifically to this car was a short video. Where people wrote about 6 million rubles, well, there are no such prices of 6 million rubles, especially at the current exchange rate. You realize that this is unrealistic. But on the other hand, with a tenner on hand, I would probably still go out and buy something obviously different. But, again, there are people who somehow want to stand out from the grey mass of motorists. Well, and buy cars like this. But, in principle, it's a personal matter. It's a purely individual approach. But why not? If you have the opportunity, if you like it, if you have the desire. I think you have to try everything, and especially a car like this. It's probably interesting at some point. About the range, there are very different figures. If you're interested, you can Google it. But, as I understand, electric cars statistically, it all has to be divided in half. Basically, to me. In comments to similar cars, it is already, and new owners confirm that it is so. So in principle, we have such a city car, on which especially will not go far, but with handles as at Range Rover Velar interesting chip. This is how you open the door. You press the button, it swings open like this, but you can program this particular swing angle. In this situation, it's almost completely open. These are the orange handles. How relevant are the orange handles inside and in the interior of the car, I think? Probably, it was necessary to make silver ones under the color of the column. But the Chinese have their own vision of this whole process, Alcantara, as you can see, about its naturalness. Frankly speaking, I also have a very big doubt. But here again, the question is probably more to some chips of the car than to the originality of the materials. Therefore, what the Chinese wanted to do, most likely, they have succeeded, because there are quite a lot of these cars driving around the city. What happens with spare parts? For them, frankly speaking, I think most likely nothing is happening, for the simple reason that they simply do not exist yet. But I hope that these cars will not break down actively, because if, as I understand it, something breaks, it will take at least a couple of months to wait. But for some reason, everyone has a standardized view of the electric car situation, that nothing breaks there, but. Let's hope that this is the case, although, for example, for the same Porsche, there are slightly different statistics about remote heating systems. There are problems with cooling fans. In general, these are already the kind of sore spots that on a few cars only I've come across. I think that each brand, each model has something different, I mean negative. There are no exact statistics here yet. But in general, the interior is quite cozy, comfortable. I really like the rear seats. It is really comfortable to sit in the back. It is quite comfortable to sit. About a place, well, in principle, 4 adult people quite comfortably can be placed. As for the appearance of the car, I understand. It is something between Porsche and something from some Citroën, it seems to me, all this design. Remember, there was a Citroën model. There was someone recognized as the worst car of the year by the appearance of some of the year. There is something in common, I think, in the shapes. But I'm not really being ironic. Indeed, Citroën had such a status some time ago. And in principle, there was such a large station wagon. It looked like something between a station wagon and a parketnik. I didn't think its appearance was too bad, but it was just this sort of shape, something similar. You can see here, the back door opens a little bit. So I haven't figured out how the algorithm works yet. But exactly how far it will swing open is something that only the owner knows. Here we are just showing the back of the front seat, by the way. The seat reminds me of something in common, it seems to me, with Aston Martin once owned Rapid something. There's a lot of similarities, but you realize that the Chinese are masters of copying anything. But this is where that story comes out in full force. But in fact, this particular copy, this particular Zeekr, it was completely wrapped in film, and the guys who were reinforcing it were very good about the quality of the assembly. I watched all this myself, but I can say that the paint quality is quite good. And in terms of the thickness of the paint layer, everything is fine too. So, basically, if it wasn't for the exorbitant price tag, I think this car would be, well, really popular here, but for a tenner, I don't think there are many enthusiasts who would dare to buy this car. Well, let's have a look at the front. On the right, here, by the way, is some kind of insect, again, to match the color of the car. Note, very interestingly, an orange bug on an orange car. Well, sorry, I've got to move it a little bit, so it opens now. There we go, the door. But nothing happened. Well, don't look so sad. In fact, I was standing there myself when I opened it, covering the door from the post with my knee actually, but it didn't touch me either. The door. But this, by the way, is an interesting point. If in some room narrow enough, and when the door is fully opened, well, what will happen? Does it stop as an object or does it not stop? There's supposed to be sensors and cameras for that. But in this situation, I'm guessing from the fact that it swung open like that, and basically my knee was a few, millimeters away from the door. Nothing happened. It opened, so it should have worked. Again, if this option is there, maybe the Chinese haven't copied it yet, because maybe it's not there. So, all in all, it's a fun little car that goes fast. Well, what else do you need to, in fact, please yourself? In this, pay attention. Cars have normal mats. I showed the same car in black color in a somewhat simpler configuration, but their mats were very strange looking, similar to those mats, which are usually put in bathrooms. So motley. Well, everything here is normal, but in my opinion, there is a lot of orange in the interior. But I understand that this is some kind of reference to Lamborghini like Urus. Well, and all the other Lamborghini, they like all sorts of bright colors of everything. But here just I understand the Chinese were focused on it, but a little bit too much with the orange color. And then, of course, the interior. I think it's unnecessary, because over time, you'll just get tired of it. Yes, and I think in some long trip will not be very probably still such bright colors. Although someone may like it, but again, this huge monitor I have not tried, and probably for nothing. When you start the car, does it not flicker like the Range Rover does? Well, in principle, this is such a cheerful and quite interesting car from the Chinese. Write in the comments whether it came or not. That's all for today. Subscribe to my channel, put likes, write comments. I try to answer everyone as much as possible. That's all, I'm off to work.